Hey everyone, and welcome back. We're diving deep into the world of modern R&B today.
Oh, sounds fun.
Yeah. Specifically, we're going to be looking at a new single called My Fault by an artist named LTB.
Okay.
Before we get started, though, huge thanks to Dulaxi for sponsoring this deep dive.
Absolutely.
We really appreciate the support.
Yeah.
So LTB, you might not have heard of him just yet, but he's really starting to make waves, you know? With his unique blend of pop and R&B.
I see. Yeah.
Like, if you could imagine The Weeknd meets James Blake.
Oh, wow.
With little hints of Joji,
Okay.
Hozier,
Yeah.
Steve Lacy, all kind of mixed in.
Interesting.
And he's known for making, like, really intensely emotional music.
Yeah.
And My Fault. Like, this single is a prime example of that.
Okay.
The source we're looking at describes it as a hauntingly beautiful journey through heartbreak.
Oh, that's cool.
And it's pretty accurate, you know?
Yeah.
It's a pretty accurate description.
So what I find really fascinating is how LTB, manages to blend all these different musical influence without it sounding like he's copying anyone.
Yeah.
You can totally hear, the influences.
Yeah.
But it's like he takes those influences and creates something totally fresh and new and distinct.
Totally. And the source really emphasizes how much of himself LTB is putting into this track.
Uh-huh.
Like, he's really pouring his heart out, and it's just so raw and honest.
Yeah.
The emotion,
Right.
it just comes through in every note, and especially when it comes to, like, the theme of heartbreak.
Oh, yeah. Heartbreak always hits hard.
Yeah, and I think what makes My Fault, like, really stand out is it's not just about sadness or missing someone. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
It goes deeper than that.
Okay.
Like, it really explores those, like, feelings of self-doubt and guilt,
Oh, I see.
after a relationship ends.
Yeah, yeah.
Like that whole, what if I did something different?
Totally.
So
relatable.
Oh my gosh, so relatable.
Everyone's been there.
Yeah, and there's this one line in the lyrics that just gets me every time.
Oh, really?
It's because now it's my fault.
Yeah.
Now it's my fault.
Wow.
And the way he delivers that line,
Yeah.
oh my gosh.
How does he do it?
You can just hear the weight of, like, the self-blame,
Yeah.
Yeah,
totally.
Yeah.
It's interesting, though, because he doesn't deliver that line,
Right.
super dramatically or theatrically. It's almost conversational,
Yeah.
Like he's just sort of wrestling with these feelings internally.
Right.
And I think that makes it even more powerful.
Right.
Like, it's just so real.
Okay, so let's talk about the production for a second.
Okay. Yeah.
Because the source calls it out as being, like, super impactful, even though there isn't a ton of instrumentation.
Oh, interesting.
It's very minimal.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the source was saying how, like, every sound that is there, it's there for a reason.
That's cool.
Yeah.
So for people who maybe aren't super familiar with music production, it basically means LTB and the producers,
Yeah.
They were very deliberate about, like, what instruments they used and what sounds they included, and they made sure that, like, nothing was extra,
Yeah.
Everything had a purpose.
Yeah, absolutely.
And for example, there's this kick drum that's like a heartbeat. And the kick drum is what gives the song,
Yeah.
the main beat, the pulse.
Like the pulse.
And it really adds to that feeling of vulnerability,
Right.
Like, it's exposed.
Totally. And the source was saying how this minimalist approach actually enhances the emotional impact of the song.
Okay.
Because it's not cluttered. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
It's not overproduced. It just creates space for the listener
Right.
that really feel the weight of the lyrics in LTB's vocals.
Yeah, I like that. Yeah, it creates a sense of intimacy,
Right.
You're right there with LTB in that moment.
Right.
It's like raw emotion.
Yeah.
And speaking of intimacy, the source describes the song as having this kind of, like, late night,
Yeah.
solitary vibe. It makes me think of, like, driving home alone after a long day
Yeah.
and just, like, letting the music kind of wash over you.
Totally. It's definitely a song for, like, those introspective moments, you know?
Totally.
And I think LTB's vocals, like, play a huge part in creating that atmosphere.
For sure.
He's got this incredible range.
Yeah.
Like, from those soft, almost whispered moments
Yeah.
to, like, these soaring notes that just give me chills.
Oh, wow.
Seriously.
That's cool.
Yeah.
And it's interesting because, like, his technical skill is undeniable,
Uh-huh.
but what really, like, shines through,
Yeah.
is the vulnerability in his voice.
Right.
Like, you can feel the emotion behind every note.
Totally.
And it makes you, like, lean in and listen closer.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely. And the source points out that, like, LTB doesn't just tell a story in this song.
Yeah.
Like he immerses you in the journey,
Oh.
you know?
Okay.
It's like you're not just hearing about heartbreak.
Right.
You're feeling it right alongside him.
That's so powerful.
Yeah,
That's like a hallmark of great art, isn't it?
I think so.
You know, like to be able to transport the audience,
Right.
to make them feel something so deeply.
Yeah.
It's not just passive listening.
Yeah.
It's a whole experience.
Exactly. And going back to that late night vibe we were talking about,
Yeah.
like the way My Fault builds this atmosphere,
Mhm.
it's so intentional.
Yeah.
It's in the production choices,
Yeah.
the pacing,
Yeah.
LTB's vocal delivery, like
Right.
all of it works together, you know,
It all comes together, yeah.
to create this feeling.
Like he's inviting us into like this specific time and place, you know,
Right.
a moment of quiet reflection.
Yeah.
And it makes me wonder, like, did LTB picture people listening to this song alone?
Right.
You know, like in the dark when you can really just sit with those feelings he's expressing.
Maybe because it does feel very personal,
Yeah.
you know, very intimate.
Yeah.
And that brings me to something else the source highlights.
Okay.
It's this idea that My Fault is almost therapeutic
Oh, interesting.
in a way,
Okay, I see what you mean.
you know,
Yeah.
like by sharing his experience of heartbreak and self-blame.
Right.
So honestly,
Yeah.
LTV is like,
Yeah.
in a way, giving us permission to feel those things too.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know?
It reminds us that like we're not alone,
Right.
you know,
In those difficult emotions.
in those tough times. Yeah.
Right. It's like he's saying, it's okay to feel this way.
Right.
You know,
It's human.
it's human.
Yeah.
And sometimes hearing someone else articulate those feelings
Yeah.
can be like incredibly cathartic.
Totally. It allows us to process our own experiences.
Right.
Maybe even find like
Yeah.
some solace in knowing that like other people have walked a similar path,
Right.
you know?
Exactly. So what does this all mean?
Okay.
Like what makes My Fault stand out
Yeah.
from all the other songs about heartbreak?
Right. There are a lot out there.
Because there are a ton, you know.
Yeah. So many heartbreak songs.
So many.
I think it's like the combination of everything we've been talking about.
Okay.
You know, the way LTB blends genres,
Ah.
the raw honesty of the lyrics,
Yeah.
the atmospheric production,
Yeah.
his incredible vocal talent.
Yeah.
But even beyond that, you
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
there's like this intangible quality, this certain magic that elevates it, right?
To another level.
Yeah,
It's a song that like stays with you
I agree.
long after it's over.
Yeah, it's not just background noise.
Right.
It's an experience.
It's an experience.
It makes you think.
Right.
It makes you feel.
Yeah.
And honestly, like in a world where we're constantly bombarded with music, you know,
Yeah. Yeah.
that's something really special.
It is. Yeah. And I think that's what makes LTB such a compelling artist.
Yeah.
You know.
Like he's not afraid to be vulnerable,
Right.
to expose those raw nerves that we all have.
Totally. And by doing so, he creates a space for us to connect with our own emotions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like he's giving us permission to feel, to embrace the messiness of heartbreak
Yeah.
without judgment, you know?
Yeah. I love that.
Yeah.
Beautifully put.
Yeah. And to recognize that those feelings, you know, however painful they may be,
Yeah.
they're part of what makes us human.
Yeah. So beautifully put.
Thanks.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into LTB's My Fault,
Yeah, okay.
I'm curious what stood out to you about this song.
Oh, that's a good question.
Yeah, what resonated the most?
I think for me, it's the sheer honesty of it all, you know?
Yeah.
It's just refreshing to hear an artist be so vulnerable,
Right.
so open about their struggles. And it reminds us that even in the midst of heartbreak,
Yeah.
there's beauty to be found.
I completely agree. And that brings us to our final thought for you to ponder
Yeah,
as
go.
you listen to My Fault.
Mm-hmm.
How can music, especially a song like this, help us process complex emotions like heartbreak and guilt?
Oh, that's a good one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What role can it play in our healing and growth?
Yeah, something to think about.
Huge thank you to Dulaxi for making this deep dive possible.
Absolutely.
And to you, our listener, for joining us on this journey into the heart of LTB's music.
It's been fun.
Until next time, keep exploring, keep feeling,
Yes.
and keep those deep dives going.